To the Turn On Your Inner Light show. It's time to stop just surviving, and it's time to begin to thrive. It's time to live happier and healthier. Turn stress into strength. Noted author Debbie Mandel will show you how to move beyond personal doubts and fears and into positive perception to turn on your inner light. Here's your host, Debbie Mandel.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to my show. Our guest expert is Allan Lokos, the founder and guiding teacher of the Community Meditation Center in New York City and the author of Patience, the Art of Peaceful Living. Patience can change all aspects of your life for the better, and you don't have to become a Buddhist monk to attain it. Welcome, Allan.
Thank you so much, Debbie.
What are the root causes of impatience?
Well, that's actually a question that is answered by each of us individually. But it's not that difficult to get to the answer. As an example, in the book, I make a number of suggestions, and they're based on research that I did as I first started writing the book, Patience. I sent thousands of people a very short interview form. It just had 2 questions. And the first was, under what circumstances are you most likely to lose your patience? And the second was, what do you then do about it? So my hope was that from the first question, I would be able to answer your question, what are the root causes of impatience? The first thing I learned is that people don't like to talk about it. I sent thousands of these forms out and really only received back hundreds of replies, which fortunately was enough for me to put together certain patterns. A few friends were honest enough to say, I really don't want to talk about what makes me impatient, and I certainly don't want it in print. But I did get enough back to be able to put together, as I said, certain patterns. And it seems that primary on the list was that people become impatient when they feel they're not being heard, or by extension, when they feel they're not being seen. They get this sense of feeling invisible. And that happens to many of us at so many different times. But one thing we have to watch for is sometimes when we feel that we're not being heard, we might accuse the other person by saying, "You're not listening." And the truth is, maybe the other person has heard us perfectly well, but they simply don't agree with us. Yet it seems in our mind that if someone really heard us, they would have to agree with us, because after all, we're right. So we make this assumption that if they're not agreeing with us, they simply haven't heard us.
It seems like it's a childish attribute. Children who are not heard, a child having a tantrum, you're not listening to me, you're not gratifying me. Seems like something rooted in immaturity.
Well, that may be, because I think that impatience is probably a form of immaturity, and it probably starts when we are children. Many of us grew up in situations where there wasn't a great deal of interest in what we wanted to do and what our interests were at that time. We were told what to do. And that's a difficult balance in parenting to supply that discipline and yet at the same time to encourage creativity. I've had a lot of comments from people already about the chapter on patience in parenting. If ever there is going to be something that will challenge one's patience, it will be the job of parenting. Whether impatience is actually a type of immaturity, that's an interesting question. Probably for some of us, on a certain level it is, and for others of us, patience may just simply arise out of our frustrations in the moment. It may arise because we're tired, because we're hungry. Patience arises for many, many different reasons. The key, of course, is to begin to develop skills that help us see in the moment when patience is arising, so that we don't react sorrow and impatience.
Similar to anger. You know, when you see yourself getting irritable or angry, out of balance, right? You want to stop it before you're out of control. I think they go hand in hand. Now, many of us, and you made this point, equate patience with passivity, or, you know, patience with the testament of acceptance. You know, I'll just accept the situation. Is that true, and is that a good thing? I mean, what about righteous indignation?
Well, I think the first part of what you said is absolutely true, that many of us, when we think of being patient, we think of being passive or non-responsive, but I don't think that's what patience is at all. The person who has learned to truly be patient, and I'd like to go back to that in a minute, because there's a difference between developing skills such as taking a deep breath or counting to 10, all those tricks that we've all learned, and becoming a truly patient person. The truly patient person is not necessarily passive at all. The patient person takes the time to see what is really going on within oneself and going on around oneself. You know, we live with the arising and passing away constantly of thoughts, feelings, and perceptions. And those thoughts, feelings, and perceptions arise due to events that we are experiencing. An event can be anything. It can be something that someone says. It can be waiting online. It can be hitting a golf ball. We can consider anything that goes on to be an event, large or small. When an event touches us in a certain way, sometimes we use the phrase, it pushes my buttons, feelings arise within us. And among those feelings are feelings of impatience, or as you mentioned, anger. Now the key is that we learn to be able to be with that moment when impatience and anger are arising, so that we don't just react to the event that has caused that we are aware of what is going on within.
We're going to react to commercial break. And we will return with Allan Lokos, author of Patience, the Art of Peaceful Living.
Now you can take Debbie Mandel home with you. Her book, Turn On Your Inner Light, Fitness for Body, Mind, and Soul, will help you decompress with healthy, positive, concrete solutions. Common life challenges are presented so that you can quickly find the help you need. Emotional tips, original meditations, and a fun and easy-to-follow fitness workout for each mindset. This revolutionary new method will help you rewire mind and body to take back your power. Get it on Amazon.
Are you overwhelmed with the burden of taking care of children, parents, or both? Are you taking care of everyone else except yourself? It's time to change your habits and re-energize. Debbie Mandel gives you an innovative and easy-to-follow program for good health and happiness. In her magical new book, Changing Habits, The Caregiver's Total Workout, Debbie Mandel shows you step-by-step how to find the optimal balance between giving and receiving, and guides you to exercise and eat right to take care of yourself. What are you waiting for? Read Changing Habits and start training for your life. Life does not need to be a burden. Get Changing Habits, The Caregiver's Total Workout on Amazon.
Listening to the Turn On Your Inner Light show. I'm your host, Debbie Mandel, and I'm speaking with Allan Lokos, author of Patience, the Art of Peaceful Living. Now, before commercial break, Allan, you were clarifying how active patience is, and that the goal is that we respond to events or disturbances or conflicts rather than react to them.
Yes, and I couldn't help but notice how appropriate the commercial message was to this very conversation. So the point is that rather than reacting to something that someone says, or to a stressful situation, or to a situation where we see we could do the job so much better than whoever is doing it, if there is a pause, and that pause comes from the time that we spend looking within, what am I experiencing in this delay that seems so unnecessary, as an example? I look at what is going on. Now, it takes me time to look at what is going on within me, and there's a pause created there. I tend to think of that as a sacred pause. Without that pause, I'm likely to react with my conditioned thinking or my usual reactive behavior, and trouble can be brewing there. I'm likely to say something that I'll regret, and if we really take that to an extreme, we are familiar with the term crime of passion. Well, the crime of passion was not planned out in advance. It's something that grew out of impatience and grew into anger, as you mentioned, and those can be just disastrous situations.
And we can look at road rage as another example of that. Happens to perfectly good, solid members of the community. You wrote something interesting in the book, piqued my interest. How does technology help us practice patience? To me, technology can really get me stressed or, wired up.
Well, I think that's exactly the point. Technology is in our lives now. There's essentially no escaping. We're using technology right now. We're on a telephone, probably. We're being recorded, or people will listen to this through means of technology. We're at our computers. We have our cell phones. We have our iPads. The thing about technology, miraculous as these devices are, is that they will at some point malfunction. And they somehow seem to know the exact moment to malfunction just when I need them most. I'm in the midst, in my case, of writing something that I think is important. That's exactly when there's going to be a little computer glitch or a crash or whatever. And it presents an opportunity to practice with something that's in our lives. Also, I did mention something very specific in the book. There are little programs called apps or applications that one can install in our technological devices, our computers, our iPads, etc., that actually force us to stop. I use one called Time Out Free. As the name suggests, it's absolutely free. You just download it. And what happens is that you set this to activate at certain intervals. Let's just say, as an example, every 20 minutes it activates for 10 seconds. And in that time, you don't work. You are forced to stop. The screen becomes blanked out with a color that you've chosen, and you sit. Now, if you're a meditator, then you can meditate, or you can contemplate, or you can simply stop. To be absolutely honest, the first time that I installed this, and these unwelcome interruptions came on the screen, I found them quite annoying. But then again, I had a choice. I didn't have to install them. I don't have to pay attention to them. You can always click a little button that says skip this break. But within a couple of hours, I realized how beneficial this app can be, and I use it every day. I'm at my computer a lot, and I'm grateful for this, because otherwise, I know me. I would just keep on working. I wouldn't get up. My eyes get tired before I even realize it. So, technology is really supposed to serve us, but we have to know how to use it. Otherwise, we can become victimized by technology.
That was very interesting, because I've always advised people to reset their natural rhythm by getting outside or stretching their eyes, looking at a landscape, and seeing how technology inveigles its way into our circuitry and multitasking, which is inevitable. and it really alters who we are and creates this impatience. So I like to have a technology-free zone.
Yes, absolutely. And getting outside, getting with nature. I live in New York City, which is not exactly the most nature-evoking place.
But you can find a tree.
Oh, I can find a tree, and I live right near Central Park.
Well, there you go.
And I do force myself to get there. But again, technology can serve us if we allow it to do so. But I certainly agree with your idea of getting out into the natural world. I don't think anything can rejuvenate us the way that does.
Now, what I also liked in the book Patience was about how the workplace is a very good spot to cultivate patience, and you made this point how the workplace really differs from all our relationships. And I guess if you can do it there to play with the New York songs, you could do it anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to commercial break, so ponder that thought, and we will return with Allan Lokos, author of Patience, The Art of Peaceful Living. Dear listeners, I'm excited to tell you about my new book, Addicted to Stress. This is a message you need to hear. Are you addicted to stress? Do you do it all while everyone depends on you? Where's all this pressure coming from? It is coming from inside you. This is why my publisher, John Wiley, asked me to write Addicted to Stress, a woman's 7-step program to reclaim joy and spontaneity in life. This fun-to-read book teaches proven strategies to reclaim your life, silence your inner critic, build a healthy body, and refrain your thoughts to change your life for the better. Dare to be happy without the guilt. Addicted to Stress is easy to get. It's available at Barnes & Noble and other fine bookstores everywhere. You can also buy it at Amazon and other online retailers. We're back with Allan Lokos, author of Patience, The Art of Peaceful Living, and your voice has encouraged me to slow down already.
That's good.
Now, so what about this workplace patience?
Well, the point that you made is that in the workplace, we don't have the type of equal relationships that we can have in our personal lives. For instance, in a relationship with a partner, a husband, a wife, over time, we work out essentially an equal relationship. Sometimes we actually plan it, and sometimes it just simply evolves, and usually it's a combination of both. But in the workplace, that's not the case. In the workplace, someone is in charge, and that person says what has to be done, that person makes the rules, and the others follow those rules and carry out what has to be done. And that's simply the nature of the workplace. In a very healthy workplace, and one that is healthy and productive, that discrepancy is not necessarily felt on a daily, moment-to-moment basis. The boss, so to speak, is interested in the input from the employees, but ultimately it isn't an equal relationship. In that situation, people can easily feel undervalued, underappreciated, certainly underpaid, and all of those feelings are just potential ground for impatience. And in today's economy, we can no longer say so quickly and easily, well, I'm fed up with this job, I'm going to go someplace else, because jobs are just not abundant right now. So we have to figure out within ourselves how to be patient in the workplace. And as you know, because it sounds like you've read the book, I do address this in detail, because most of us spend a great deal of our waking hours in some way relating to our work, actually in the office or the workplace or wherever it is, thinking about our work even before we go, bringing work home with us afterwards. Sometimes at night with our head on the pillow, we're still thinking about what went on in the office. Our work, the way we earn our livelihood, is a big part of our life, and we need to learn how to take the stress out of that and learn how to become more patient in the workplace.
That's a very good point, because many of us bring our work home emotionally, and a bad mood generated at work carries over the threshold to the family, and bad moods are contagious.
Absolutely.
Now, you told a very lovely story about a watchmaker standing back, delighting in his work, in the little minute inner workings of a clock. But that's all well and good, but employees, let's say in a financial institution, who work under pressure and have to multitask, I don't think they have that luxury of stepping back and saying, look what I'm doing. There's somebody yelling at them, you don't have it yet? Well, now I'm adding this too.
Yeah. Well, there's no denying that it's difficult. We can make a blanket statement and say that life is difficult. We are extremely complex beings. No one can say accurately, I am a patient person or I am an impatient person. We're both. It just depends on circumstances. But we want to look at, am I impatient more than I want to be? Is it not working well for me? In the kind of workplace that you mentioned, it's just very challenging. We accept today this concept that you mentioned of multitasking. But research shows clearly that there really is no such thing. The mind won't do that. We're fooled because the brain is so capable. We can do a number of things within a certain time frame, but the mind can only be focused on one thing at a time.
And we don't shortchange things, and then we can improve our focus at the task at hand by single tasking. Well, our time together has just flown by, and thank you so much for presenting this art of peaceful living, this patience that we all need to cultivate. After reading the book, I felt a lot more patient.
Oh, I'm glad. And thank you for having me on. It's been a real pleasure.
I'm glad. Affirmation of the week. Become more receptive to spiritual beauty by putting yourself in the presence of physical beauty. And now for the latest medical trends. From the Journal of the American Medical Association, controlling body weight still represents a challenge for most Americans. 60% of adults are overweight and more than 30% are obese. And one reason for this, and this is obvious to all of us, is that we overeat. But a new study finds and makes the salient point that the amount of calories, it's not the protein, but it's the calories that determines whether you gain more weight than you should. Now, working with mice, scientists at Johns Hopkins have successfully used a commonly prescribed blood pressure medication, losartan, to prevent almost all of the lung damage caused from 2 months of exposure to cigarette smoke. The treatment specifically targeted lung tissue breakdown, airway wall thickening, inflammation, and lung overexpansion. Well, that's good news. Humble people are more likely to offer time to someone in need than arrogant people are, according to the findings by Baylor University researchers. Using a nicotine patch may help improve mild memory loss in older adults, according to a study published in the issue of Neurology. That's pretty interesting. Among obese individuals, having bariatric surgery was associated with a reduced long-term incidence of cardiovascular deaths and events such as a heart attack and stroke, according to the Journal of the American Medical Association. And how much playtime does a child need? Well, pediatricians recommend that preschoolers get 90 to 120 minutes of gross motor activity daily and be taken outdoors twice a day. But preschoolers and daycare centers aren't playing outside, and they're not just being kids anymore because of academic pressure at this age and fear of injury. Well, we come to the close of another show. I have an educational website, turnonyourinnerlight.com, totally free, where all the radio shows with the guest experts are archived for your listening pleasure. Subscribe to my free newsletter from turnonyourinnerlight.com, and you will get the latest interview emailed directly to you, along with a fresh new article on stress management and the health tips fully delineated. So hit that subscribe button. Have a wonderful week, and see you on the radio.